like to call the meeting to order. If everyone could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll.
Trustee Rogers. Trustee Reinders. Trustee Pazmino.
Present.
Trustee Consolino.
Present.
Trustee Fialco.
Present.
Trustee Laha. Mayor Yukich.
What we did forget, though, is invocation after the Pledge of Allegiance, which is on the agenda. So I'd like,
Thank you, Father Tom. Would you mind
Father
coming
Tom,
up?
would you mind stepping up and give us our first invocation in 21 years?
Thank you, Father.
Thank you, Father.
Heavenly King, Comforter, Spirit of Truth, forever bear present and filling all things. You said all things in order to will that through marriage, family, education, and government, your kingdom of heaven would be made present upon this earth. Now look upon these your servants, Mayor George, and his entire village administration. Bless their good intentions, as is your good will. Keep them in peace and tranquility, ever mindful of the lofty tasks set before them to guide and develop this village of Glen, according to your true, good, beautiful, equitable, benevolent, and glorious divine order of creation, just as the founding fathers of this nation so decreed. You are holy, our God, and we render glory to you, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, now and ever and forever. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
Are there any amendments to the agenda?
We do want to take one item off the agenda, and I'd like to make the motion to do that, to table H5 until the January 11th meeting, based on the email received from the village manager, Morella. McDonald's would like to, and the ownership would like to continue that on the meeting on January 11th. So I'd like to table H5 until then. I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, and you want that for agenda?
I believe he said January
Board
11th.
meeting?
The next board meeting, which would be on January 11th, I believe. Am I correct in that? Okay. Thank you.
Public comment. There's a 3-minute limit if you can. Anyone sign in?
Joe's not here.
Thanks, Jim.
First one would be James Crows.
Good evening, everybody. Happy holidays. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to address this board. My name is Jim Cromes. I've been a member. Thank you. My name is Jim Crones, and I've been a member of the Ability Awareness Committee since its inception. And on behalf of the committee, we are asking for the motion to approve the contract with All Around Amusement be tabled tonight. Second, we are asking the board to approve a co-chair for the Ability Awareness Committee. I believe we're the only committee that doesn't have a co-chair. We have a recommendation of either Christina Troike or Trustee Rogers, and we are asking that this gets done as quickly as possible. Tonight is widely acceptable. It should be, as I mentioned, other committees have co-chairs. In an effort to improve the special needs carnival experience, the Ability Awareness Committee firmly believes there needs to be a clearly defined set of expectations for a special needs carnival event which needs to be incorporated in the proposed agreement. We don't see anything addressed to that detail in the current version slated for approval tonight. As you may recall, from a constructive and informational perspective, this past year's event had some challenges that involved in some of the issues were the all-around amusement, available staffing readiness for the event start time at 2:30. We underperformed. The ride availability for both children and adult rides, many of the rides were shut down early or never open at all. Several games were not available at the start time or much later or not at all. And just the overall staff education knowledge was challenged. On the flip side of that, when we think about incorporating language into a new agreement, identification of specific rides to be available for the children and the adults, all-around commitment to staffing, agree upon education of event structure and times to committed staff, a definition of a carnival event, and the rides included for the special needs carnival. These are just some thoughts and some ideas for incorporation into a proposed agreement. And we also believe that the village is in a stronger position to collaborate with crafting mutually acceptable language prior to executing an agreement versus amending at a later time.
You have 30 seconds.
Oh. The second, and just a few comments from the committee. Recently, there were some events to commemorate the Veterans Memorial Day groundbreaking, the Senior Expo, where the Ability Awareness Committee received very little notice. The Inclusive Park, where the Ability Awareness Committee paid for the swing. We weren't even invited to that. So we just feel a little underappreciated. So we'd like to see some improvements there, and maybe, just maybe, if we have a co-chair, maybe that'll change. Our last meeting, we did not have a staff liaison for our meeting, so it made it a little clumsy. So in conclusion, the ask is to table this motion and work in collaboration with other communities to craft appropriate language to support a special needs carnival that meets or exceeds expectations of the community that we are so grateful to serve. And out of respect for Trustee Laha, this should be tabled until her return. And please appoint our committee co-chair. To my colleagues on the committee, if I missed anything, I apologize. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know it's unusual for us usually to address, but could I make one quick comment? Would that be okay, Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Crows, I don't mean to be a pain, but no, some of the other committees do not have a co-chair, like mine. I'm on public safety, and then we're going to have a new commission as well that's coming up next year, and there's no co-chair on that as well, okay? So I just wanted to let you know that that's not always the case.
Thank you for the
though.
education.
Okay, Father Tom's already gone. He thanked all of us for allowing him to do it.
Father Tom's story.
Oh, Father Tom, I cannot see through the wood. Father Tom, you have something else you want to explain to us or say to us?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to thank you and everyone here for honoring me with the privilege of being the first to give this brief invocation. To tell you the truth, there's a certain affinity I have for this village and its administration, and my parish does too, because we started out together at the same time. I remember being a stakeholder. We had the tables with the big maps, and we had the markers, and we were literally designing Homer Glen. And inspired by the motto here of community, nature, and harmony, our church, which was just being established at that time, developed a sustainable environment water management master plan for our property, in other words, a restored prairie, which completely changed the neighborhood, the community, and solved a water problem that not even 2 counties saw fit to solve. Our church did. We completely changed people's lives, that whole region, for the better. Then, our church building acts as a polling place for people to come and vote. I could go on, but the point is this. Homer Glen stands as a model not of an alienation between church and state, but rather the fruitfulness when church and state cooperate together, as our founding fathers had wished and hoped and designed into our Constitution. So again, I want to thank and commend Homer Glen for that example, and to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for all that you do and all this administration. We've had a wonderful relationship with this village. It's a great place to live and a great place to have a church. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next would be Michael Bonomo.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, trustees. Good evening, Homer Glen residents and the whole board. I'm here to, it's end of year. I'm with the township, as a township trustee, I'm the chairman for the senior committee. And we went through you go through a baseball season, football season, we went through a senior season. From start to finish, we held events all year long. And I'm here to specifically thank some of the people on the village board and some of the village residents. Mainly, we ended the year with a Christmas party yesterday at Taza's, thanks to Rosie for hosting it and providing a tremendous meal. We had 128 people come through the door, seniors that have participated in the bingo, the senior tea, we had the senior expo, amongst other things. The other side note is Carmen Morella, if anyone knows, he could get in the kitchen, and we found out he could serve 128 people in a matter of 30 minutes. He stood, Now the one great thing about this, and Dan, his wife, Cindy Laha works with me as a vice chair, and she is a rock star. And one side note is their daughter, if anyone knows, by Saturday she should be crowned Mrs. World. Mrs. USA, I think, is given her, she deserves the prop for everything that she's done for this community, for ability awareness, but that's another subject. But getting back to the senior committee, I want to thank everybody. Jennifer, she was sick yesterday, otherwise she would have been there. Dan, his wife, and Rose, and some people in the crowd. Tremendous, tremendous help. Next year, we're going to rock it, and I always say we work together, we work better together. And the township and the village has proven that this year, because everything that I've done, I've extended help to some of the village people, and they've stepped up, and I couldn't have done it without them. But I just wanted to thank everybody, look forward to 2023, and we're going to rock on. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Next would be Barack Backel.
Thank you, Mayor. For the purpose of transparency, I'd like to disclose my political leanings. I'm a conservative Republican. My first vote was for Ronald Reagan, and I voted a straight Republican ticket ever since in the general election. Now, I tell you this for good reason. For those old enough to remember Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment, which is thou shalt not speak ill of another Republican, the current group of trustees violate that 11th commandment routinely, and it's actually insulting that they claim to be Republicans. I've been repeatedly abused verbally by this group, and so have too many of our Homer Republicans, Democrats, and Independents. The time has now come to stand up to these bullies and let our voices be heard. It's hard to understand how difficult and painstaking something is to build, and just how easily and quickly it can be destroyed. But make no mistake, our village is under attack, and it's in the process of being ripped apart. This current group of trustees is drunk with power. All you need to do is watch the meeting where Steve Balich and his board of bullies tried to sell off our open space to understand what this current village board of Pasmino bullies is about. They have their own village attorney protecting them at a cost of around $10,000 a month to the residents. I urge the 10,000 plus residents who sit at home on election day to get up and get involved, and at the very least vote. This group of Pasmino bullies cherishes your non-vote. A non-vote from you is a vote for them. The new trustees that Ruben Pasmino and Steve Balich are currently putting together in place to run in this upcoming April 4th election must be stopped before this cancer spreads. I would now like to ask all of the Homer Glen residents at home that are watching this tonight, I ask you please, Talk to your neighbors. Tell them about Channel 6. Tell them about watching these meetings on YouTube and get them involved and save our village. Ruben Pazmino, Cheryl Rose Renders, and Steve Balich, they are counting on your non-vote, and you have no idea how important your non-vote is to them. They cherish your non-vote and they count on it because they need it to win. Pay attention to Channel 6 and YouTube these next 3 months, Republican, Democrat, Independent alike. The truth will be exposed, and I urge you to vote and save our village.
You have 30 seconds.
Get involved, and if you cherish your village, you must get involved and vote. Your vote is your voice. Their biggest fear is that our Homer residents will be awakened and will vote. And it's really up to those who have sat on the sidelines for a while to now awaken and save this village from those who are drunk with power and hell-bent on taking this village from you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Backel. All right, that's it for public comment.
That was bullying. Holy cow, that was bullying. Oh my-
Everyone has a right to say what they want to, including you.
Yeah, thank you.
As we go after knocking on every door in the village, we get them to vote. Thank you for the PR.
All right, next is reports and communications. Next is reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. We had a resident that is sick that wanted me to read a letter for her. How did that one go? Oh. Dear trustees, including mayor, clerk, and village manager, I was planning on attending tonight's meeting in light of recovering from bronchitis. I will not be in attendance to one you listed above, and that is Susie O'Connor. Please read the attached statement in regard to the Special Needs Carnival Contract Amendment. Dear Homer Glen Village Board and residents, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone. I would like to make a statement and a request to amend the contract for the Homer Fest for the years 2023 through 2026. The Special Needs Carnival is a beautiful and special part of our yearly Homer Fest. For the past few years, my husband and I have enjoyed taking our 2 young children to attend. This particularly enjoyment for our youngest, many times enjoying family outings in large areas where lights, more importantly, sounds can become triggering for him. I understand the amusement company does not include this as part of the added bonus. However, it is not specified in the contract. At any time, a company could be sold, remanaged, or even overlooked. This extra they have kindly done in the past, I am asking this is specifically added to the contract, so in the future, any misconceptions cannot be overlooked or forgotten about. As nice as it is to take on someone's word, sometimes that's just it, it's words. It doesn't always hold its value when it comes to something like this that is important to many families in our community. There are children in our community that on a daily basis cannot enjoy typical day-to-day experiences like other children. Their physical, emotion, and mental capacities are restricted. Can you as a board please take a moment to do what is best for the small group of little people? There are children in the community that maybe look forward to this all year. Maybe their parents cannot take them to a Disney or travel to other amusement parks. Maybe their handicaps are too much to travel far from home to enjoy a few hours laughing and playing. I understand the past summer came with a few hiccups at the fest. Unfortunate, yes, but a 2-week delay to sit down and edit this contract isn't a lot to ask for. Special needs children do not ask for a lot in return. They ask you for your love, respect, and understanding. Please show these children how your love is this holiday and making Homerfest special day in 2023 the best one yet. Regards, Susie O'Connor. Can we put in there that this has got to be in the minutes, please? Next, the roads are dark right now, and you still have a lot of people that are speeding and kind of going quick, and luckily we have had no snow whatsoever. But I would like to have everyone remember the speed limit is a speed limit, and the Will County Police, I asked them to make sure that they stop anyone that's going more than 9 miles over the speed limit. Next would be Trustee Consolino.
Good evening, everybody. First, I want to start off with a very big thank you to the people that stepped up to plate when we lost some personnel the past month when it came to our Christmas lights. It was fabulous. There were a lot of people who enjoyed it, so I would like to give a big thank you to our village manager, Carmen Morella, and to Rose Reinders for stepping up and doing what the rest of us weren't able to do. So it turned out beautiful, and for all the other staff that participated and made it a beautiful event for our community, thank you. I'd love to continue and talk about Christmas cheer tonight. However, the usual village Grinches have stolen any hopes of that, as usual. There are things that need to be spoken about publicly that have been taking place behind the scenes here at the village. When I choose to speak publicly and air out our dirty laundry, it's meant to deter our publicly elected officials from continuing their repeated misconduct. I do it to prevent any further harm from reaching our residents, and I also do it to protect our village staff, who unfortunately end up being the first-hand recipients of these violations and electioneering of my shameful colleagues on this board. We have an election to replace our mayor and several seats up for grabs in the April 4th election. Thank you, Brock Backel, our former trustee, for pointing that out. We have a grueling 147 days until our new officials are sworn in on this board, and 8 more board meetings until our censured mayor and his sidekick Beth Rogers are no longer sitting with us on this board. No matter what my personal feelings are towards these 2 board members, I had sincerely hoped that these 2 would have done everything possible to create a positive, long-lasting impact and legacy for our community in their final hours. And of course, they haven't. With their last few months pending, they have chosen bitterness and discourse instead, and continued to pursue sabotaging our board and our community. In the past few weeks, we've contested petitions brought before the village for a candidate running for trustee. This candidate has public support from the mayor and Beth Rogers, and also both of their signatures are on their petitions. This candidate is also running on Clerk Netchke Trike's slate, who has the mayor and Beth Rogers' public support and funding. Now, there's nothing wrong with the fact that these 2 sign these petitions or that they support our clerk. The problem lies with the fact that these 2 currently are sitting on the electoral board that reviews any contested petitions to see if they are valid, and the candidates can go forward. Common sense would tell any reasonable person that is paying any attention to this that this is clearly a conflict of interest. But here in the village of Homer Glen, with our censured mayor and his sidekick Beth Rogers, they don't believe it is. And it gets worse, much worse. Both Clerk Netchke Trike and our censured mayor spoke to staff members regarding this situation, and both of them stated that nothing would be happening to the contested petitions because both the mayor and Beth Rogers would be sitting on the electoral board. In layman terms, they basically were saying, we own the electoral board, and no matter what is wrong with these petitions, we will let this candidate run because we can. Just to be clear, loud and clear, this is illegal. This is electioneering, and it basically gives more than enough validity to have them all thrown off the board for bias and having a conflict of interest. I'd like to thank the clerk for actually recusing herself from the board, but obviously it doesn't make any difference when the people with the majority of the electoral vote, and you yourself, have stated they won't do anything to throw your slate member off the ballot. I can't believe that I actually have to say this out loud, publicly, to shame everyone on this board and point out what's really important fact with all of this. It's unethical for anyone on this village board, anyone, to preside over the electoral board for anything with the upcoming election. The word duh comes to mind. We're all biased. We all have vested interest in a candidate or candidates in the April 4th election. The right thing to do would be for all of us to recuse ourselves. All of us. This needs to go before an independent panel with the Will County Circuit Court. However, I can tell you all right now, our censured mayor and Beth Rogers will never do that. So a long drawn-out battle will now take place at everybody's expense because elected officials refuse to do the right thing. I've been in office for 20 months now. I keep running into a theme with these same elected officials and their violation of the rules left and right. Their excuse is always the same, because we can. I've pointed out numerous infractions and misconduct the past 2 years on this board. They dismiss all of it. They do not care. I keep saying the same thing over and over, and I will point it out every time these people politic an election year with our village, because it's illegal. And yet, here we are again. We are very fortunate on this board to have amazing staff that are both hardworking and competent in their positions. We've heard Beth Rogers and former bidder trustee Sharon Suisse refer to the numbers of employees that we've lost over the past 2 years. As a former government employee, I can tell you all that there is always turnover with employees when new elected officials come in. It's the nature of the beast of working for government. Our village has been through 12 village managers within our first 21 years. We had one quit just weeks before our last election. These people deal with a lot of stress and flack, not just from our residents, but from our village officials. The individuals who left us all left for a variety of reasons. I'd like to go on the record and state that when former trustee and current lame duck trustee Beth Rogers complained about these employees that have left, they are not providing factual or honest assessments of why those employees left us. It's politicking. I would also like to address our staff tonight. There are all reasons that this village runs smoothly and effectively. It is not because of anybody sitting on this village board. They deserve all the credit, and I don't feel like it's always given to them. More importantly, I'd like to remind them that any time a village official campaigns and electioneers to them or in front of them, they need to document it. And when a village official harasses them or states something about them that could damage their reputation with their peers, please document it. False statements that were made by village officials were brought to my attention recently. So apparently it is very necessary to point these things out publicly. Any complaint and documentation should always be filed with our village manager, Carmen Morella. If it cannot be dealt with on the village level, Mr. Morella will refer you to an outside agency that can. Just because someone is the mayor or the next person in line who could be the mayor does not mean that you have to put up with any type of abuse, violation of policies, or personal harassment. I personally refuse to put up with any further abuse. This is why I myself have filed a complaint with the EEOC just a few months ago. No one should have to endure being abused for speaking up or speaking the truth, especially when it's in the village of Homer Glen. It's shameful that these things have to be said publicly to all of you, all because a few bitter individuals refuse to behave and actively do their jobs. I realized how imperative it is for me to say these things because a staff member told me somebody has to. They were right. To continue to let it go on and sit in silence is just as unjust as the action itself. When you all look at the bigger picture, a child can preside over a meeting and pay a lawyer to write their script, hold their hand, and point at what they should say or do, or when to cut a ribbon, or how to sign a check. Not everyone has integrity, sadly. Not everyone is a leader or has the ability to work with a board of unique individuals and unify them, and also utilize each person's gifts to the best of their ability. It's a tough job, but it's the most important job in our community. Please vote on April 4th. Please research each and every candidate running. Your votes and your voices count. Please come out. You have candidates who count that most people do not come out and vote, just like Brock Backle stated. And this is why the few outweigh the many in some of our elections. They also count on the fact that many voters don't do their research on who they are voting for. We have 147 days and 8 more board meetings. Homer Glen deserves better, and that's my report for tonight.
And I'll add a comment to that. Almost all that is electioneering, and you did it now.
No,
Well, apparently
it's not, George, but you're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah, I know. Next would be Trustee Pazmino.
Thank you, Mayor. Trustee Consolino, thank you I know that you speak from the heart, you speak the truth, and you give facts. And that's what needs to be relinquished from this dais. The truth, facts, and speaking from the heart, and I appreciate you for that. Thank you very much. So first off, I'd like to thank Father Tom for conducting our village's very first invocation today. We really appreciate it, Father Tom. Thank you again. I also like to thank and congratulate Father Tom and his congregation on such a beautiful Christmas on the prayer event that they had last Saturday at Annunciation Church. It really reminded me of when I was a kid. They had all kinds of activities and crafts and baked goods, and it was just a beautiful place to be at the moment. I hope that they continue to do this every year for our families, and I think that Homer Glen is very blessed to have Father Tom, his congregation, Annunciation Church, every year and in our communities. Reporting for CED, we enhanced the Homer Glen grant program for businesses. We're going into more details on the agenda as it needs to be finally approved by our board, and I'm confident that we made the right updates in CED and will enable more businesses to receive grants, especially our local smaller businesses. We also discussed the formation of our subcommittee that will oversee the final recommendation for contracting a land planner that will initiate the planning process of Homer Glen's very first town center. We are very excited about this, and especially excited about the process itself, which will engage our community via input, workshops, and stakeholder meetings. This is a wonderful project, and I can't wait to get started on it. Reporting for the Environment Committee, we work to solidify Homer Glen's first memorial tree program. Many towns in our vicinity have already and very successfully established programs, and we wish to give our community a chance to do the same. This would be something that you could memorialize your loved ones, honored ones, with a beautiful gesture. We are looking at trees and benches for this program, and the Environment Committee is looking to finalize details and present it to the board within the next couple of months. We are very excited as this has been on the Environment Committee's wish list for quite a few years, so we're finally making progress. Lastly, this is for our Behavioral Health and Addiction Recovery Committee. Our first meeting is in January, and we are still taking inquiries about joining the committee. The committee was established to create awareness and action towards substance abuse in our village. We will provide guidance and programs and will work closely with other organizations that deal with this horrible epidemic. If you are interested in joining our committee or assisting, please contact me at rpazmino@homerglenil.org or our wonderful village manager, Carmen Morella, at cmorella@homerglenil.org. Folks, this is going to be our last meeting before Christmas, so I want to wish everyone and their families a very safe and Merry Christmas. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Next would be Trustee Renders.
Thank you, Mayor. For my report this evening, I'd like to start off by saying that this is going to be our last meeting before the Christmas break. And I would like to basically wish everybody a blessed holiday season, and also not to forget the less fortunate. We have food banks and charities that actually really do take care of the less fortunate. So if we could just remember them and try and see if we can donate to some of them, that would be great. The Parks Committee meeting had to be canceled. I don't know if you guys are aware, I had a family emergency, so we had to cancel the last Parks meeting. I would like to talk a little bit about the tree lighting ceremony. We had a record number this year, and everyone just loved the Kris Kringle Market and the food vendors. We couldn't get enough of the hot chocolate. Everybody was waiting in line. They loved it. A lot of suggestions were next year for Carmen Morella. We talked about the artificial ice rink for next year. We got so many suggestions, and people were really excited about that. They said, please, can we have an ice arena next year? So that was something that we took a suggestion on. And also, they were looking for more vendors and more the Kris Kringle Market. They really enjoyed that this year. So we'll look forward to that again, and we'll put our heads together to try to make that happen. I would really like to thank our staff. As Carmen stated, Myself and Carmen basically took the reins and ran with this because after Sue had left, there was no plans for the event. So Carmen and I said, well, we'll just take care of this, and we did. And we worked hard. Our staff worked hard, and we pulled it all together. And I was very happy and very proud of our staff. Everybody worked. They worked really, really hard. Yesterday at Taza, as Mike Bonomo stated, we had our end of the year event for the seniors. The seniors were so grateful and so happy that this village and this township came together for an event like that. They thanked us. They couldn't thank us enough. I can't even tell you how many times they came up to me, to Mike, to the volunteers. We even had the chief, Kevin Doyle, there. He was carrying trays out, and he actually made us take his picture and say, my wife would never believe that I carried a tray of food out of the restaurant. So it was a very good day, and we're actually really blessed to have a group of seniors that really, really care about this community. I mean, they couldn't say it enough, and they couldn't thank us enough. So with that, that's my report. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next would be Trustee Fialko.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to say thank you for everybody that attended Homer for the holidays and the tree lighting ceremony. It worked out wonderful. This is the second year in a row that I've got to participate, and the improvements this year everybody really enjoyed. And just so everybody knows, I believe the lights are on in the park for all the ornaments that are decorating the park from dusk every day now all the way till January 3rd, correct? Correct. Okay, so if you want to get a cup of hot chocolate and go out there and enjoy walking through all the ornaments, that is the time that it'll be open to. On December 28th, our meeting has been canceled. So for the first time in 21 years of being a village, we celebrate the Christmas season with invocation and prayer. And so I want to say Merry Christmas to everybody in the village of Homer Glen and their families. I wish you a very Merry Christmas. I'd also like to say to Trustee Laha, she won Mrs. Illinois, she won Mrs. America. She is now competing for Mrs. World competition on Saturday. And our prayers and our wishes, our best wishes are with her that she wins that competition also. She's got a good track record of winning, and I think that she's got all the positive things on her side to do it once again. So we are very proud of her and her being involved in that competition. What I'd like to do is kind of close out with a Christmas joke that I heard, and just to lighten up the meeting a little bit. In that joke, you can share at the Christmas table if you like. How much does it cost Santa Claus to park his sleigh in Homer Glen? And the answer to that would be nothing. It's on the house. So, in closing, with that, I can't take full credit for that. My wife Rose shared that with me, and I thought I'd pass it on. So Merry Christmas, everybody, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Village Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Back in October 12th, 2 sets of minutes were tabled, and then I believe it was another meeting later. 3 sets of meetings had failed, and there are 3 still outstanding. I'm still waiting for the trustees to review those minutes. I believe it was Trustee Pazmino who stated that there were some major reports missing from July 13th and August 24th. So if we can get those looked at, I'd like to get them done for the early of next year. Thank you, Jennifer, for sending me your report, your new business report for October 12th, but I haven't received any reports, your communication reports. So if I can get those sent to me, that would be great. And the rest of it, everything is all typed up. I'm just waiting for that portion to submit to the minutes. And then lastly, Jennifer, I would really appreciate if you would stop making false accusations of me at the dais. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. That's it, Mayor.
Okay, you're all set. Village Attorney.
I have no report.
Other village attorney.
Yes, Mayor, if I just may take a couple of moments to address the board and yourself. On Monday of this week, the electoral board met for the first time to set forth the procedures for to address the objections that have been filed against candidates that are running for office in the election in April. One of the individuals present at the meeting asked me to prepare a memo, if I could, to address or explain who is permitted by state law to sit on the electoral board, and then who can fill a vacancy if an electoral board member withdraws or is disqualified. And I did prepare a memo this afternoon, which I circulated to yourself, Mayor, the members of the village board, the clerk, and I also sent it to Eric Hansen. I did not know you would be here, otherwise I would have
Yeah, no,
sent
I
it
got
to
it, and
you.
I'm prepared to address it.
And first, the members who are originally allowed to sit on the board are...
You know, maybe, I don't mean to cut you off, but
okay.
We've taken a look at it, and we think there may be some merit to your position, I guess, and we'll have to take a further look. I literally read it in my car before the meeting, but, you know, I think Mr. Horvat has suggested that the third member was improperly appointed. We'll take another look at that statute, and we thank you for your advice. And I just want to let you know, we're going to look at it, take it seriously. We think there may be some merit, but we need to review it.
And I appreciate your taking what I wrote seriously, but I think I'd like to finish my comments.
Yeah, I would like you to finish what you started so the public understands where we're at with
Yes, and that's one of the reasons that I would like to just finish, and I'll be brief. The mayor, the village clerk, and the longest serving trustee are by statute allowed to sit on the board. In this particular instance, if one of those members withdraws or is disqualified for any reason, then the second longest serving trustee is allowed to serve if they are qualified. In this particular, with this particular board, the village clerk properly withdrew from participation on the board. And in a situation such as this, Trustee Pazmino would then be the next choice to sit on the board. However, he is running for office and so is therefore not qualified or eligible. So in that instance, you're supposed to contact the Circuit Court of Will County, the Chief Judge's office, and ask them to appoint what's called a public member who is independent to sit on the board. In this particular instance, that was not done. A lottery was conducted, choosing from a can or a hat the name of one of the 4 remaining trustees, which is really an inappropriate and improper procedure. And so I did prepare the memo, and I did indicate that I think it's really important, not just worth a second look, but really important for the electoral board, Mayor, and your other member, Trustee Rogers, to direct your lawyer to contact the Circuit Court and have an independent member appointed. That will avoid what will otherwise, I'll guarantee, will otherwise result in a challenge by either the lawyer for the objector or the lawyer for the candidate, claiming that the board is not properly constituted and did not follow the directions under the Illinois Code. With that being said, I'm asking the mayor, and I asked in the memo, to follow that directive. You don't need to take a second look. You can if you care to. But that's the way the law works, and that's what should be done. And with that, I'll close my comments, and I will wish the entire board and all of the members of the village staff who attend all of these meetings and listen to all of these tedious comments a very happy and wonderful holiday season.
Well, and, you know, thank you, Mr. Horvat, and as I said, we'll take a look at it. If we gave
the wrong advice to the electoral board, we'll certainly go there with humble apologies and correct it. Thank you for pointing it out. We will take a look at it. If we were wrong, we will tell them that, and we will give them the proper advice in the venue of the electoral board. And I don't think there's much more we can do than that.
Well, I have something to say on that one. 8 years ago, when I ran for mayor, ex-mayor Jim Daly decided that one of the forms that was not stamped put me off ballot. And at that time, it was 2 trustees and a clerk. So what's the difference now?
Well, look, Mayor, I think that Mr. Horwath brings forth a serious question that deserves Eric and I to take a look at, and I think that we should do that, and we'll give you advice after a second look. He may not believe it deserves a second look, but I'm not prepared to sit here and make a decision based upon reviewing something for a few minutes. We'll take a solid look at it, and we'll provide advice accordingly. And if he's right, he's right, and if we're wrong, we're wrong, and we'll take care of it. There's been no harm done. No decisions have been made by the electoral board. If there was a mistake made, we'll put it back on track and move it forward.
Attorney Horvath, can I ask your opinion on the things that I shed light on tonight about the fact that both the mayor and Trustee Rogers had signed the petitions? Both the mayor and Trustee Rogers had signed the petitions in question. So I'm confused as to why they would be permitted to preside over anything with the electoral board regarding this.
That's really not a question that I can answer. Mm-hmm. If the objector chooses to challenge, they have the right to do so.
Okay, and then I also have documentation from staff members about what was stated to them by said officials, so I'll make sure that the objector gets that as well. Thank you.
Carrie, I'd like a copy of that because I did not get a copy.
I'll be glad to give you a copy. Here, in fact, you can have mine right now, George, and believe me, I can make a copy for myself. Would you pass it to the mayor, please? You know what? You can, I'll give him a copy of it.
Okay, we're done with the attorneys. Public safety officials.
No report. Nothing about any of the robberies that have been occurring at the retail stores the past couple months? Burglaries?
If you have questions, I can answer them.
Could we get a 6-month report on retail burglaries?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, village manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. I want to wish everybody a happy holiday. We're going into our snowy weather, and you'll see in the park we have our snowman decorating contest. I think everybody will be enlightened as they walk through the park. They also can visit all the beautiful snowmen that the residents have decorated. It is a competition, so they are having a contest. You can vote online under our events, or you can just go out there and take a QR code snapshot and you can do your voting there. They're all great. I think the residents did a fine job, and I'm really happy to see all those snowmen out there as you wander through the lights. So as you are out there, please enjoy those with your hot chocolate, like Dad would say. The other thing I'd like to bring up, Mayor and Board, is I was at the Northern Will County Water Agency meeting. I'm not going to go into detail. I did lay out my minutes to you guys in notes. I just wanted to give you a few highlights. This wasn't an executive session meeting, so I don't want to tip off what legal is actually doing, but I think you guys should understand what's going on. So I laid it out with 14 bullet points, just to understand that it looks like it's going to jury trial for the evaluation of what the pipe actually costs. That'll be January 5th through the 23rd. It'll be a 2-week process. Chief Justice Barbara Petrangano will be presiding. At the start of January 5th, they will lay out how the trial will run. It's been a long-waited process, as I'm sure Mayor George understands. With COVID and stuff, it's been delayed quite often. This is a very complex case. A case like this hasn't really been ever heard in the state of Illinois. So logistically, there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen with jury selection. And I just wanted to give those highlighted points. I don't really want to go into a lot of detail because this is in the litigation, but those just give you kind of what the gist of is, what's going on. But if you guys want to read the rest of the notes, you guys are more than welcome. That's all I have to report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. Okay, next is consent agenda. Consider for approval the accounts payable for period of November 11th, 2022 through December 15th, 2022 in the amount of $930,390.01. 2, consider for approval the treasurer's report of cash and investments for the period of ending September 30th, 2022. 3, consider for approval the reduction of the letter of credit for Phase 1 of the Square Goodings Grove development to the new amount of $47,547.19 in accordance with the village code. Number 4, consider for approval the reduction of a letter of credit for Phase 2 at the Square of Goodings Grove development to the new amount of $117,746.88 in accordance with the village code. Number 5, consider for approval a reduction of letter of credit for the Kingston Hills Unit 6 development to the new amount of $477,177.81 in accordance with the village code. Next, number 6, consider for approval payment of the Village of Homer Glen's October legal bills from Mahoney, Silverman and Cross LLC in the amount of $1,950. And number 7, consider for approval payment of the Village of Homer Glen's October legal bills from Legislative Attorney Odelson, Stirk, Murphy, Frazier, and McGrath, LTD, in the amount of $8,633.75.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there is no vote on it.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. All right.
What do you mean?
Well, you got a motion, you got a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call the roll.
Yeah.
Call the roll. Well, they don't discuss it.
Okay, Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
And Trustee Pasmino?
Aye.
Okay. Legislation and action items. Consider for approval of the 2023 meeting schedule calendar for the Village Board, Plan Commission, Committees, and Emergency Management Agency.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee
I'll
Fialko?
second.
And I'd like to also make, on page 3 of 6, I'd like to make the motion for the Homer Community Festival Committee meeting schedule to remove July 5th. We're usually just still catching our breath by July 5th. We don't plan on having a meeting at that time. So I would like to amend this by removing the July 5th meeting.
All right, can we wait till we get to that point right now, seeing we're in the middle of one?
No, this is what we're on, George. We're on the schedule.
Oh, so...
We are on H1. I'm addressing page 3 of H1, and I am making the motion to amend the July 5th meeting for the Homer Community Festival, and I need a second.
Second.
Well,
What is the date going to be? And
wait a moment.
Are you making a motion to adopt it as amended? Is that what you're...
No,
Right, but-
I'm making the motion to amend. So once that, and it was seconded.
Yeah.
So now I'm asking for July 5th of 2023 to be removed, so we need to vote on that.
A roll call?
Roll call?
All right.
Well, you were interjecting for what reason?
Well, it just seemed to me you could just make a motion to adopt it as amended because...
Well, we didn't amend it yet. I am amending it.
Well,
Right,
you
but-
didn't adopt it yet. That's the point. So
No, I don't want to adopt it till I amend.
You know what? Just...
Jerry, Legislative Council, this is the proper way to do it or not?
eliminate one of the dates?
Yeah, I'm just eliminating one of the dates. I made the motion, it got seconded, then I made the motion to amend to remove July 5th, 2023 from the Homer Community Festival meeting.
You made a motion to amend. Has it been seconded?
Yes, it has. Is that the proper way to do it or not?
You can do it that way. It's proper,
thank
yes.
you.
So
It's fine.
go ahead. vote on the
Usually it
amendment,
was-
And then you would vote on the schedule as amended.
Call the roll.
Is there any discussion on it?
Dan, what was that date again?
July
5th.
July
July 5th?
5th, 2023.
Thank you.
If there's no discussion, could we please call the roll?
I have something to say. So
Well,
we're just voting on the amendment,
Yes, at
not
that
the
point,
actual,
that's
because I
correct.
know trustee Laha had a question on the date, so we're just voting on the amendment. And it was Fialco and Rose, correct? Because I could not hear. Thank you.
who had a question?
Trustee Laha has a question from our committee meeting about another date that she had a question on. So I don't want to vote on the whole thing without mentioning that, that's all.
Will we please call the roll?
That's what I'm trying to do, thank you. Trustee Pazmino.
Aye.
Trustee Fialco.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now we need to vote on the actual motion itself.
Actually, you would make a motion to approve the schedule as amended.
Okay, I would like to make that a motion to approve the schedule as amended.
So move.
Second.
You guys,
You got it.
Fialco's making the motion. Ruben, you are seconding it now.
Correct.
My bad.
Is
I
it,
know trustee Law had a question on January 3rd. Is there any way to, I don't know what date she wanted, I believe it was January 10th. Is there any way that anybody can make a motion to change
For
that
what
date?
committee- Are you talking for her committee?
Yes, for the ability awareness.
What would she like done?
She didn't want to have it on July 3rd since it was right after the holidays, and I believe she's out of town. So I believe she wanted it switched to January 10th. And she was supposed to make that request before she left, but I didn't see it on the change.
Community Awareness Committee.
But I don't know if it's already pre-scheduled with
Let me
something else
understand
already.
what you- Okay, so you said for July 4th? You want to change it to
No, for July 3rd is the scheduled date.
Well, it says July 4th, that's why I said July 4th.
I'm sorry, January 3rd.
It says to switch it from July 4th to July 11th.
No, January 3rd. January, you're looking at July.
I know, but that's the one that's highlighted, that's why I'm questioning it. Why
Yeah,
is it highlighted?
she was asking about January, I don't know. Maybe it was a typo.
It doesn't show any change on January 3rd that she wants to make. It shows July 4th. Should we change it to July 11th? I'd be glad to do that for her if that's what she actually wants.
Right, but at
Well,
the,
you gave me conflicting information, that's all.
no, what I'm telling you is that at our last committee meeting, she had asked to change the January 3rd date to January 10th. I see that July 4th is highlighted in yellow. I can clearly see that.
Okay.
I am saying January 3rd, she had requested to make to January 10th.
And Village Manager Morella, you never received anything from her other than this?
No, we've been working on this for a couple months now, but no.
And Gina Marcotte did send out a
Wait,
email,
quite
yeah,
often.
asking everybody to confirm. Okay.
But there was another question on the floor, and I'll respond. January 10th, there is not another meeting scheduled, so ability awareness, if you would like to move it to the January 3rd to January 10th, there would not be a conflict.
Okay,
Dan,
now.
just so you know.
Are you good with that?
Yeah, but I can't make the
I know.
request to change it, so I'm asking for someone else.
Legislative counsel at this point, since we've already adopted it, or we attempted to adopt it.
Why don't you make a motion to amend the meeting on January 3rd to January 10th? And then, if it gets seconded, you vote on that, and then when all the other, if that's the only other amendment, then you vote on the entire schedule before you as amended.
That was my point before,
Okay,
thank
for
you.
trustee Laha, for the Ability Awareness Committee for 2023, the January 3rd meeting, I'd like to make the motion to change it from January 3rd to January 10th. I need a second. All right, so we got the second on it?
Second is Ruben, then.
Any discussion on it? No, we can take the roll call.
Okay, trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialco?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
All right, now I'd like to adopt the motion with all the amendments as we explained. Is that
I
okay?
want to make the motion to adopt the schedule as amended.
Okay, I'd like to make the motion to adopt the schedule as amended. Thank you, sir.
So move.
You're seconding.
I'm seconding.
Yes.
That's correct.
I'm agreeing with them.
Thank goodness.
Any discussion on that? No. Please take the roll call.
Okay. Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino. Trustee Reinders. Trustee Pazmino.
Aye. All right.
We will make those amendments for you, board. Thank you.
Number 2, consider for approval ordinance number 22-054. A request for a variance to increase the maximum aggregate square footage of accessory structures from the allowed 1,800 square feet, 1,800, 2,000, 2,000. This is a none.
57.
2,050 certain real property located in the R1 Single Family Resident District, 14563 West Hickory Avenue, Homer Glen, Illinois.
So move.
Second.
Discussion. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino.
Aye.
And Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 3, consider for approval ordinance number 22-055, a request for a variance to reduce the rear yard setback from the required 40 feet to 32 feet for certain real property located in the R3 Single Family Residence District, 14608 West Stone Haven Lane, Homer Glen, Illinois.
So move.
Second.
Discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Pazmino.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 4, consider for approval ordinance number 22-056, a request for 1, a variance to increase the maximum permitted height of a fence along the west side property line from 6 feet to 8 feet. 8 feet, and a variance to permit a privacy fence in the front yard where fences are required to be 50% open and designed for certain real property located in the R2 Single Family Residential District at 15434 West 141st Street, Homer Glen, Illinois.
So move.
Second.
Discussion. I had some discussion on this one with Carmen earlier today. It seems that the property that this is on, the neighbor is being inundated with garbage and he has a hoarder next door to him. So they want to be able to put up an 8-foot fence to cover what's in his yard so the neighbor doesn't see it. They have already gone out there one time and cleaned up the property. And now the people that own it are filling it right back up and making no other changes. We paid for the first cleanup. Now they want to put up a fence. And I'm taking it for granted the owner of the property is going to be paying for the fence then? Yes. Okay. So my opinion on it, I honestly believe that is completely wrong. I will understand that the guy next door to him has an 8-foot fence, but to fill it right back up after the village paid for it, I think that now's the time to start fining him.
I believe he was, oh, sorry.
So
I understand, George. The resident that's erecting the fence is to beautify their yard, not to see the hoarder's property.
Thank you.
And that's very, it's very disturbing because we already went in and cleaned up once. Planning Commission weighed in pretty heavily on this conversation. Melissa can actually, I was there at that meeting. They weighed heavily on that, and they had a lot of concerns. But then when the final thing came down, they were like, yeah, we can understand now what's going on, so.
And I don't disagree there. If I was the guy that was in the property that was looking at all the garbage, I'd want it too. But now I have to pay money, or he has to pay money for something that it's still not going to beautify anything, because if this hoarder's putting everything back in there, he'll soon see over the 8-foot fence.
Well, I agree with the mayor on this one. You know, we, plus the planning commission, you know, voted 4-0. Have this resident put up the fence, allow him to make it higher, and as far as the other neighbor that's just trashing the scenery around this guy's beautiful house and the beautiful property, start fining him.
He was fined before in the past.
Doesn't it keep?
There's a very lengthy code enforcement history here, so I mean, I think everybody understands why.
Casey quite frequently goes to this property.
Yes.
That's what I understand.
But
Casey's
code enforcement can only do
Yeah.
so much. So therefore, I'm in agreement with the need for the higher fence.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with the higher fence. Let him put it in. I wouldn't want to look at that either. But I do have a problem when the village spends our taxpayers' money to help him get rid of all the hoarding that he's doing, and he re-hoards it.
Hey, can I ask a question to the board? As a consensus, do you want us to escalate this a little farther with that order? I mean, we can definitely talk with code enforcement and see if we can escalate the issue, if that's what you're requesting.
He's not taking us seriously.
Right.
And it's not like he's just letting his dog loose. This guy has, it's a dump, there's a dump yard next to his house.
The residents that have the beautiful home next door, they're actually, I think they're in the, yes, they are in the audience, if you guys had any questions for them.
Okay,
Is there any mental stability play into this with the owners of the hoarding property?
In some of our staff notes, you see there was some issues with Will County Health Department. That's another road or advocate, and I think we failed on those ends, right, Melissa?
Probably
Yeah, she denied.
that we should be involved in either.
Really? And I mean, this person is of sane mind and,
Yes.
yeah? And they're just hoarders. Wow.
Correct.
And you said the owners are here of the house that wants
to put the fence up. That has a beautiful property.
Yeah.
So just to follow the bouncing ball here, we're in discussion, correct?
Yeah, correct.
I know you're going to speak in a minute, but the person that is putting up the fence, which the motion is about, is here. They are the people that want to put up the 8-foot fence. The people next door are the people that are causing the problem, which is not on the motion for anything to be taken care of. So we're only talking about allowing this neighbor who has the beautiful yard, who wants to protect it from the person next door, to put up the 8-foot fence. Am I correct?
You're absolutely
Because it was a little hard to follow what you were saying, George.
I think we all agreed, right?
But the thing is, the motion is not about the person next door. The motion is about the 8-foot fence for the person who wants it to protect their yard.
But just the village manager asked us about the guy next door.
Right. I just want to be clear where we're at with this, that the motion is about the 8-foot fence. And George, you are for the 8-foot fence for the person with the yard that's not causing the problem, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But I'm not, it's an expense they really shouldn't even have. It's an expense that they shouldn't have. And if the people that are next door keep destroying the property around it, what's to say it doesn't spill over to the neighbor on the other side? So if there is no punishment to what he's doing, then there's no recourse. You can't do anything about it. Then this guy can just fill it up and you'll be coming back for a 12-foot fence. If you want to stop it, I still feel bad for them because they're paying for the fence.
Absolutely.
As far as the motion, I think we're all on the same page. If there's no other discussion, I think we should just put it to the vote because it sounds pretty clear.
Okay, call the vote.
You want to call the roll?
Sure. Trustee Cancelino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Piazmino?
Aye.
And Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
All right, and I want someone out there taking a look and making sure that they're finding them. I don't care what it
Direct it
costs.
that way.
Because it's even though it's just a hoarding and you got a fence,
We'll take care of that, George.
it's going to start stinking.
Village staff will be out there, no problem.
All right, motion carries. Number 5 is tabled. All right, number 6. Consider for approval ordinance number 22058, a request for a zoning map amendment to rezone the subject properties from the E1 single-family estate residential district to an A1 agricultural district per the Village of Homer Glen zoning code for certain and real property located at 15744, 15717, West 151st Street in Homer Glen. The subject property also includes 4 pins. I don't need to read the pins out, of Homer Glen, case number HG2224-A.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
And Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, 7, consider for approval ordinance 22-059 extending modified standards in lieu of 2020-1005C 6B of the Homer Glen Code of Temporary Signs through December 31st, 2023.
So move.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
So on this one, Mayor, we discussed this in CED. Basically, we're extending for another year the signage ordinance that we're pretty much saying it's okay to, even though it's not in the sign ordinance, to have certain types of signs. We're saying it's okay to have it for another year, given the economy, given a lot of things that are going on, and for us to take another tool out of the businesses, the local businesses toolbox, to be able to prosper. I'd rather them keep it for one more year. So I think it would just be the right thing to do.
Agreed.
Agree. All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
And Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, number 8, consider an approval for the Ace Pyro LLC contract agreement for years 23, 2024, and 2025.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I didn't finish, but that's okay.
Yes, that was it.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
For clarification, who made those motions?
I did.
I first, he second.
Okay.
Next, 10, consider for approval resolution number 22-013, approving and authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement and license.
Skip one. No, you skip one, Mayor.
One ahead.
So confused.
We're on H9.
Oh, that's for all amusement. I'm seeing the years on top of each other. Consider for approval the all-around amusement contract for the 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026 Homer Community Festival.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Well, they talked about it. Call the roll.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
And Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 10, consider for approval resolution number 22-013, approving and authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement and license agreement with the Will County Forest Preserve District for construction, operation and maintenance of the trail connection to Spring Creek Greenway Trail to Messenger Marsh.
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I think this is an awesome project that helps the kids cross the street, and we really need it.
Yeah.
Okay, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
And Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 11, consider for approval resolution 22-014, approving the authorization executing an amendment to the corrected second amended and reinstated intergovernmental agreement, IGA, between the Village of Homer Glen and the Homer Township
I'll
Road.
make that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion?
With discussion, just so everybody's clear, on the front page, page 1 of 1, the last sentence basically is spelled out incorrectly, and the corrected portion of that is under the ordinance 3A and B. It's actually spelled out correctly. So I just want to make note of that.
Christine, do you have that? Can you note that?
I wasn't following what he said.
It would be on page 5, 3A and B is actually the correct, it's, the ordinance is correct, the front page isn't perfect. The supplemental sheet is not the way it is spelled out in 3A and B. 3A and B are correct.
Okay, got it, yes.
Basically, we're giving up the chipper, the road district is giving up the truck to us, we're giving up the chipper to the road district.
Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Pazmino. Aye. Trustee Cancelino.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, consider for approval ordinance number 22-060, an ordinance adopting the levy and collection of taxes for the Village of Homer Glen, Will County, Illinois for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2021 and ending April 30th, 2022.
So moved.
I'll second. Go ahead. Trustee Pazmino's got it.
I think just for the record, we should get the total amount of the levy into the minutes that's in the ordinance. I think it's 1.5, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the original amount. It was back from 2020. And we haven't raised it. So can you put that in the record as well, please?
That it has not been raised for the past 2 years.
Yes.
Do we want discussion on this?
Discussion. You were talking, so I figured that
We
Well,
had,
I got plenty to say, but I'm just trying to make sure if I should go there or not. I'll give everybody else.
Can I just ask a clarification question? So for the motion, we're just reading it and then adding the 1.5 million in there, and then a side note, Trustee Reinders, you want it in there to state, because I know Trustee Cancelino said something as well, but just to clarify, you wanted to say the levy has not been raised in the last 2 years?
Right.
correct.
Okay. Okay. I know you guys all said something, so I wasn't sure. Okay.
Well, and just so the public knows, this levy was passed in 2020 to be able to pay for the road district that became the Public Works Department here in 2020. So we just want to clarify, in order for the Public Works to function, it does need this $1.5 million tax levy, even though it takes anywhere between $3.5 to $4 million to operate this Public Works, and we're doing it at less than half of that operating cost. So we just want to let everybody know. And once again, we have not raised, even though it's been proposed, we have shot down any raises to this tax levy for the past 2 years. And we intend to do it this year as well.
And a good explanation of the breakdown is on page 3 for anyone who would be interested in knowing, if you want to call special attention to the Public Works line. But that would be all I've got to say. Thank you.
You want me to? Roll?
Any other
No,
discussion?
I've got more. Thank you. In full disclosure, last December, I pointed out a lot of facts about our Public Works Department. First and foremost, I informed the mayor that he and the previous board did not do their due diligence and that they never conducted a feasibility study to be able to predict what kind of budget we were going to need for the department. They didn't feel that there was any need for this, but they did feel there was a need to push to take over the road district from the township. Not us. They also felt the need to give us our first ever municipal property tax to pay for it, without any research to make an educated guess on how much it was going to cost or how much it would burden the residents of Homer Glen. Mayor also wanted to give nearly $1 million to the city of Lockport to pay for the road district assets owned by Homer Township. These assets that the township gave to our village for free. Road equipment that previous township supervisor Pam Myers was suing the village of Homer Glen for and withholding them from our use. Thank you to Supervisor Belich and Homer Township Road Commissioner Porfilio for giving the property to us for free. Let me go back now to the almost $1 million that the mayor and his attorney, Eric Hansen, were ready to hand over to the city of Lockport. Had this board permitted him to do so, neither the mayor or the city of Lockport were ever able to provide our board or our attorney, Carrie Horvath, with sufficient evidence as to why we owed them anything for the road district equipment that was given to us for free by Homer Township. Yet, our mayor and his attorney believed that we owed him. Homer Glen, this is how we come to the Public Works tax levy. I would love to abolish the levy. I really would. The majority of my board would. Realistically, we cannot. We inherited a Public Works department from our mayor and his sidekicks on his previous board. Thank you, Brock. To act in the best interest of our village, we need this tax to support having our own Public Works department. Currently, there is no need to increase it, just like we did not need to increase it last year, let alone the 158% that the mayor and Beth Rogers were fighting us for. Does anybody remember how they walked out of that meeting prior to the vote? I do. Our current budget to support the Public Works Department is actually close to $4.2 million. Correct, Carmen? The Village of Homer Glen has to support that through other funding. Currently, our country is facing an unprecedented inflation rate of close to 9%. Our country is in a fuel crisis that doesn't just affect gas prices for our cars, but for energy to heat and light our homes this winter. I wouldn't even want to give the statistics for food prices right now. It's too depressing. If it burdens me, it burdens every single resident in our community, and that's a fact. As we all are facing the rising prices, so does our Public Works Department. Our village is also actively involved in union negotiations with Local 105 on behalf of our Public Works employees. Once a union is created, costs with the Public Works Department will inevitably go up. It's due to all of these reasons that we cannot in good faith abolish the mayor's tax levy. We can continue, as some of my board members have been, looking into other avenues to fund the Public Works Department and avoid increasing your property taxes. In closing, I would like to respond to the residents who are always questioning why our property taxes in Homer Glen are so high. With the upcoming election in April, I think it's imperative to inform you that 3/4 of your property tax bill do not come from the Village of Homer Glen. They sincerely do not. More than 70% of your property tax bill goes to the school districts. Within the past 2 weeks, 3 of our school boards have all voted to increase our property taxes. I've gone to some of these meetings and informed them that the Village of Homer Glen has not been increasing our tax levy, just like Homer Township. I've requested that they look closely at their budgets and cut back on spending. I've explained, along with others, that they can decrease spending and not increase their tax levies. None of these board members have taken anything that I and other residents have said into consideration. Homer 33C just voted to increase their tax levy by 7.55%. Lockport Township High School, District 205, just voted to increase their tax levy by 6.04%. And just last night, D92 voted to increase their tax levy by 6%. This is another reason that our residents should be coming out in droves on April 4th to vote on the people who are spending and increasing our property taxes. Merry Christmas, Homer Glen. I refuse to increase your property taxes when it's unnecessary, and so please enjoy your holidays.
I did have one more comment. I wasn't going to say anything, but since we're mentioning it, former trustee Brock Bacco, you made some comments earlier during your public comment calling myself and this board bullies. I'd say 95% of the reason you're sitting there and not here is because you were a bully to the pocketbooks and the property values of the residents of Homer Glen. So I want you to remember that. Merry Christmas, sir. Merry Christmas. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
No, we're not going there right now. Well, then if you want to explain, then we'll let him explain. People have to understand when we went to buy or take over the road district, it's because there were so many things going on. We didn't know if Pam was going to run, if not, and then all of a sudden, someone else that wanted to run, which had been doing it for a long time, was told that he couldn't vote. So Mr. DeVivo did not, well, he put his levy through before he passed away. When we made it, we were pretty straight up with all the people that we don't know what it was going to cost. When Mr. DeVivo had it, he usually pulled around $6 million, close to $6 million for his levy. So when we got it, our village manager at the time said, we're not sure if we're going to have enough to be able to do this, because we had already pulled 1.5. And she said it would be a wise idea to put a little bit more on there, so this way we don't have to surprise anyone going through, and we can get all the streets and everything cleared. After we got in it, the village manager at that time said, we think it's going to be around $58 per $100,000 cost of a house, and that would be the addition to the taxes. And unfortunately, when we did find out about it in the end of it, because we don't do this, we found out that we are not the township. So we don't have any right to be able to put it in a reserve to pay the snow. So when it came through, they knocked it down to $48, I think it's $48, $49 from 50 some. And we took off with that. But when we finalized everything, we put a cutoff year of when that money was going to be spent, or it was going to be taken away from the village. We reserved 1 year that we would pay until we found out how it worked with the road district. So after the first year, that raise was supposed to go. But 2 years ago, when the vote came out for the levy, they agreed on what was done the year before. Well, that wasn't supposed to. It was supposed to end at that point. And they were informed that it shouldn't have gone on for the second year and the third year. So now it is the third year by their choice. In the last meeting, I told them, it's not supposed to be there. We were supposed to give that up and give it back to the people. Well, now, you know, like she says, it's a fact, that was supposed to go away. It didn't go away, so you still are being charged more money. So there's a lot of things that are out there that are just, they don't make sense, and a lot of them are just plain old lies. As for the Lockport, our village manager at that time too also said that we did owe Lockport money. So I told him that if we do owe the money, then we should pay it. Well, Mr. Ballage came forward and said, you don't owe him a penny. He says that all the stuff's already been taken care of. Well, right now, we shouldn't be giving them, the tax should be gone, and whatever we decide to put out there should be the number that's there. But this should be, it should be a corrected number. They sat down with Lockport a few days ago, or a few weeks ago. I'm not quite sure when that was. But then they had told us that we're supposed to forfeit the money and give the money to the people who lived in the township, which would be next to impossible, because we don't know who lived there, who didn't live there, who moved, who came in. So we plow right now, and the village pays for it. No one else does. The village pays for it. We also do the 18 miles, and we don't charge the township for it. So I don't know where you're coming up with your numbers, but the way it is right now, they're paying about $500 more on taxes, depending on the value of their home. And if we vote it in tonight, then that stays.
All right, can I tell the truth now? All right.
Please do, because if not, I'm going to jump in there.
I couldn't hold it anymore.
Because I
Okay.
can't handle this crap anymore.
Yeah.
Please do.
So, let's start from the beginning. I'm going to make it much quicker. All right, Cliff Notes. Here we go. And anybody that wants to know the truth, just go back to the meetings. It's on
Yes.
YouTube. It's everywhere.
December 20th, 2009.
Let me finish. Here we go. So, Cliff Notes. In the beginning, the township was the one that managed our roads and our streets. We had no problems. Everything was fine. It was perfect. It was beautiful. Okay? The mayor, along with certain other people whose names, don't want to mention, God rest in peace, they decided that we need to take over that road district and become a public works. In retrospect, it might have been a good idea long term when you're ready for it. We weren't ready for it.
No
Village
feasibility
manager-
study.
The village manager at the time thought we were, because she was all tax and spend, so it was okay. Just gouge everybody, we'll be able to afford it. So that was the mentality. Fight goes on. Legal fight goes on. The steps that were taken forward for this to happen was to go ahead, number one, and try to disband the road district and have, at that time, who was Pam Myers, she wanted to dissolve the road district and absorb it so that she did not have to answer to anybody. That was the part that we were fighting as a village. We put forward as a referendum. A lot of people get this wrong. The referendum was not about acquiring the road district. The referendum was about not dissolving it and keeping it as its own entity. That's what the referendum was about, not to bring it into Homer Glen. Look it up, it's there. And that's where the miscommunication is. Now, let's move forward. After that, after the vote was done, the referendum said, it dictated, leave the road district the way it is. The township could not absorb it, which at that time was Pam Myers. And that is what started step two. Step two was George and some of the other members of the board at that time said, okay, now that the road district, which is a member of one and responds to nobody but the people, the voters, now we can take it over because it has not been absorbed by the township. And that was not decided by the people. That was decided amongst the road commissioner at that time, and it was decided amongst the board, the Homer Glen Village Board, which is not this board that was here. I voted against it because we were not ready for it financially. So in order for us to get that financially, we needed to create Homer Glen's first ever property tax. So it gets better, guys. Correct me, George, if I'm wrong. At that time, we were not sure if we were going to be able to win that lawsuit and take over the road district. We weren't sure. So to cover our bases, what did we do? Hey, just in case, let's tax the people twice. That's what was done. Remember, George?
No, I don't.
Yes, it was. Twice. Let's double tax them, and then after that, we'll see what happens. So what hold on, George, I'm speaking. I got the floor, sir. I didn't interrupt you even though I really wanted to, but I didn't. So, the one-time tax that was supposed to be done, which is what George is talking about, was the one-time double tax. That was the one-timer. So you mean to tell me that after you take over a $4 million road district / public works, you're going to eliminate the tax? I don't think so. So after we bought the baby, and when I say we, we're a village, so I say we, because I voted against it. I didn't want it, but guess what? This is we, right? We have it. We bought the baby. Now we got to pay for it. So of course it's election season. So what does he want to do? He wants to tell us.
You could always leave.
Excuse me, guys.
Point of order. Both of you.
Not part of point of order, knock it off, let them speak. That's what you always say.
I'm going to make sure that all that's recorded. You already have a lawsuit against you.
Thank you, sir. Everybody, I know we're almost there. But at the end of the day, this is about the people being informed. So, here we go. At the end of the day, the double tax was done. Now we move forward. We bought the baby. You can't throw the baby in the garbage. We can't give back the road district because we already own it. So how is it possible, George, for us to not pass a tax that you and the board from the past 2 years ago, Brock, remember? How is it possible to give that money back? How are we going to pay for what we bought 2 years ago that we couldn't afford, which is why we're gouging the residents, which is why we're lowering the value of their homes by raising their taxes, because we all know how high the water bills are, right? How dare you sit there and say it's up to us not to pass that forward, knowing that you guys took over a road district. That's $4 million. You should be proud of us. You should be saying this board actually went ahead and is operating a $4 to $5 million operation with $1.5 million. We're doing things that nobody could do.
No.
Hold on, that's what you said, that's what you said. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was the windup. At the end of the day, the only way that we could get rid of that $1.5 million tax that was brought on by the prior administration, the only way we can get rid of that is by giving back the road district. And then, that's it. It's back in the road district's hands. But we can't do that because we've already acquired it. And the fact that in 2 years, we have not increased, the services have been amazing. We've been able to accomplish that and not raise taxes. So that's what you need to be saying, not that garbage that you were saying earlier, sir. Thank you very much.
Trustee Pasmino, I couldn't have said it better myself. Let's start with some facts also. I sat down with the road district Superintendent Brent Portfolio the other day. The tax levy in 2020 through 2021 was actually $5.08 million. In 2021, it was 2021-22 was $1.75 million. And now for this next, he just lowered taxes on the road district side 25%. So for 2022-23, it's going to be $1.375 million. So what this board has done is we have taken a budget that started off at $5.8 million, and we're operating on 1.5. You say, how can we do that? The reason we're able to do that is because we've rolled up our sleeves. We asked for a budget from the road district, which we didn't have, and the former board and George took and rushed to judgment and put double taxation with their representation. And so when Trustee Pasmino says it, that's exactly right. It was double taxation with your representation. And that is what everybody was upset about. Now that you've adopted it, just like Trustee Pasmino said, we've got the baby, right? Now we're taking and we prove that there's a way to run that road district with a fraction of that amount of money. So while the road district and the township lowered taxes, we did not raise them on the village side. That $1.5 million, if you look at, I mentioned it at the last meeting, that Carrie Frilling even told George, even though George is saying today that it was supposed to go away, I don't know where he comes up with that, because Carrie Frilling said herself at that meeting on December 9, 2020, I believe it was, if you go back to our past meeting, I mentioned the digital tape marker where she said it, that it would be a reoccurring fee. And I agree with her. How do you run a road district without money, right? Okay, so we need to do it, but we don't need to do it at $5.8 million. We don't need to do that. So we came up with a few ideas. I believe we passed gaming at Lenny's. That absorbed some of that. We took and looked at the budget. We made sure that we were functioning with the staff that fit the needs of the village. Carmen Morella has done a fabulous job with keeping an eye on that and keeping us in check and up to date as to the monies that we need. So this village board has taken and cut taxes. There can be the naysayers and the people that are electioneering from their seat in the podium up there, and you can turn and twist things all you want. The facts of the matter are we're operating at $1.5 million when that budget was at $5.08 million before. And so we refuse to raise the taxes on the homeowners in Homer Glen. We would rather, if there was ever going to be anything that had to be done, a pass-through tax is always better. And that example with a pass-through tax came from Lenny's. And the monies that's collected from that gaming comes and feeds the village, right? So we're not putting it on your house. We're taking it, and it's a pass-through tax that helped. And I believe, Carmen, maybe you can help me out. We're functioning just fine with the $1.5 million. We're not the half share that we're going to lose from the township, reducing it by 25% this year, we are not increasing that amount. So we are saving on taxes once again. And I will tell anybody that's listening at home right now or in this audience, if you want to see when your taxes got raised, on the village website, there is a GIS mapping. One of them is Will County GIS mapping. You can go to your house on that map, click on your tax ID number. There's a 5-year history. Take from that first year and add it all up till this current year and see who raised your taxes and who didn't raise your taxes. This past year was the first time that the taxes actually just went up $11 or so, or actually went down. And the reason it only went down that amount was because the other taxing bodies within the village raised taxes, and where the township and the road district lowered taxes and we didn't raise them, it kind of balanced out. So this board has busted their butts to do what's right for this village and not put taxes on our homeowners. And so for the facts, instead of listening to people that like to make up stories, go to Will County GIS mapping, run your own numbers and see where your taxes went down. That is all I have to say. Thank you.
And also, if you really go back to the meeting, the same time last year when this very same subject came up, our mayor and Beth Rogers walked out of the meeting because we would not agree to the scenario that they gave us. They gave us 4 different scenarios of how we could raise the municipal tax. We refused every single one of them and decided to keep the tax exactly where it was at. And our mayor and Beth Rogers got up and walked out of a meeting. They wanted to increase the tax 158%.
$3.7 million, right?
$3.7 million, and that is a fact.
And we took it off the agenda. We didn't even let it get voted on. So that's the facts on how hard this board works to keep and protect your tax base.
So yes, we are bullies against taxes at the end of the day.
I had originally cut out the first portion because I thought maybe I was going to be too lengthy tonight, but shame on me for doing that, because when we sat here a year ago, the mayor and Beth Rogers, along with former staff members, told a newly appointed board that it was necessary for us to increase the public works tax levy by 158%. It's all on the video from last year.
That's right.
Our mayor scolded us and told us that if we didn't do this, we were jeopardizing the public works department and that our village would be doomed. Both the mayor and Beth Rogers got into a heated argument with a few of the other board trustees and then abruptly stormed out of the meeting before finishing the vote on the tax levy. They both walked out of the meeting, and the mayor was seen standing and laughing in the hallway until Trustee Pazmino was voted in as mayor pro tem. Remember that? And once he started to preside, George stormed right out of the building. Beth Rogers stated on social media shortly after that she had done this, hoping it would stop our vote. It didn't. The rest of us sat here and we did our due diligence, and we refused to vote in any increase. I want to thank the people who spent weeks with me going over our budget with a fine-tooth comb to see if there was any increase that was necessary, and it wasn't. We had a surplus. There was no doom and gloom that befell the village or the Public Works Department. Imagine that. I want to thank our attorney, Carrie Horvath, who received a phone call from our former assistant village manager, Matt Walsh, and an independent tax attorney, because Attorney Hansen wasn't returning their calls. I want to thank Carrie for standing up for this board and for our tax-paying residents when you told them just because you can doesn't mean that you should. That's always stuck with me, Carrie. Thank you. Recently, I was told that the mayor, the clerk, and Beth Rogers are inquiring as to why we aren't abolishing the tax levy. The mayor has made numerous mentions that the levy was just a temporary tax. Funny thing about this temporary comment is that it's false. It's not true. The mayor's former band of trustees who voted unanimously for the tax are on record, as well as his former village manager, Carrie Freeling. Remember those October informational meetings? I do. I was here. They all said that the tax was necessary and would be increased even year after year. I've also addressed the mayor on record during our board meetings the past year, confirming that this tax levy was not temporary. I had our staff support me and confirm this on record as well. This was never meant to be a temporary tax, and you knew that, George. I also requested that the mayor and others stop making this false comment, but as you all see, they still have not. They keep pushing out the lie. So when we say we're going to call it the politicking and the electioneering, there you go.
And lies just pour out of yours.
There's no more discussion. Could we call the roll, please?
Is there a motion? Is a motion?
I think we did. Yes.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Fiocco?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
And Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Well, it'll come to fruition. Okay,
We're on 13, page 13.
I know what it is.
Okay.
Consider for approval a reimbursement grant award under the Commercial Building Improvement Grant Program at Sherry Log Art Glass Limited for eligible improvements, 1255 West 159th Street, in an amount of $3,722.50.
So moved. I'll second.
Madam Clerk, call the roll. On the one that we just got done with for the number 12, though, I'm against pulling a bigger levy.
We're not doing a bigger levy, for the record.
Okay. Let's see what you do.
All right, trustee Pasmino?
Aye.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, wait.
What was that with respect to the levy?
Mayor Yukich wanted to make it noted that he was not for passing the levy.
Actually, he said he was not for passing a bigger levy. Those are his exact
I didn't
words.
hear the bigger, but
I did.
okay.
Isn't that what he
I
said
did.
last year?
Yeah.
Okay, but I got it. Don't worry.
Yeah, his
I got
vote
it.
is
I
not,
got it. I know, it's moot point.
it has no effect. It is not a vote. He's not entitled to
I
vote
understand.
on a matter such as that. Okay?
I'm aware, I
Express
know,
his
I
opinion
know.
for the minutes, so I think we could agree on that, correct?
Yes, I will make a note of his, okay. And was there discussion? I'm sorry.
So the actual vote right now is for Sherry Law.
Yes.
Correct.
Point of order.
Yeah, let's stop confusing everybody.
Be in the minutes. We're past that. A point of order, we were past
It
that.
was-
We were on our next item. There should.
Yeah, discussion was over.
Be included in anything.
It was clearly obvious that he did not
Oh,
approve
he
of it,
didn't
so
make that point.
he did make that point, but we're on H13.
You don't need to argue it at this time. When the minutes come before you at the next meeting, you can make the appropriate motion at that point in time.
I heard him say do the call, and then he made his comment, but I didn't hear discussion. Was there, you guys? No.
No
Okay,
discussion.
just making sure. Trustee Pasmino, you voted aye, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
And Trustee Reinders?
Okay. Consider for approval a reimbursement grant award under the Commercial Building Improvement Grant Program at Cherry Law Glass Limited for an improvements of 12.
Mayor,
ready then.
you're on
You've already done this one?
H14.
We're on H.
Consider for approval a reimbursement grant award under the Commercial Building Improvement Grant Program and S&G Athletics LLC DBA Megaplex for eligible improvements at 15301 South Bell Road in the amounts of $7,538.68, 66 cents.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
May I interject here, please? On this one?
Jeannie.
Jeannie?
Yes. I can answer any questions if there are such about this particular case.
Really, no.
We discussed it in CED. We were okay with it.
Any discussion on it?
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Pasmino?
Aye.
And Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is workshop. Area Homer Glen Legacy Development Group, workshop for discussion only, consideration of a concept plan for a mixed-use residential commercial planned unit development at 12500 West 159th Street. So, are they here?
I think they are. Let me see if they're in the room. Ready?
We'll take it between the workshop. So we're not holding up any other people that are here. Are we going to have something under old business? Are we going to have something under new business? Is there going to be an executive session?
Yes, the village manager wanted to go into executive session to discuss compensation for certain village employees.
Well, do we want to hold all these people for the workshop?
Well, that would be their choice. You went through new business, old business, now it's either the workshop and then we've got executive sessions.
Well, I would say the residents should see this, so we should do this with the residents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm ready for the workshop, in order as the agenda says.
And anybody who wants to watch the workshop is welcome to stay.
Yeah, no one has to go unless it's executive. So,
Would you like me to start, Mayor Yukich?
yes.
All right, tonight we have a workshop for a new development proposed on 159th Street. It's located at 12458 West 159th Street. It's an 80-acre property. It is not 80 acres. I just realized this is from the old, it's how many acres, Boris?
15.5.
15.5, I apologize for that. The project is a walkable mixed-use neighborhood development with commercial development along the frontage, residential use deeper into the site. The concept includes 5.5 acres of commercial along 159th Street and 10 acres of residential located in the rear. The residential component is proposed to be a pedestrian-friendly gated residential condominium development. I'm just going to go real quick over that, and then I want to talk about the zoning on it, and Boris with Legacy Development is going to do a presentation. And so probably one of the biggest issues with this project is that our zoning ordinance does not allow for any type of multifamily currently, unless it's senior housing development, which is a separate type of land use. So if this project were to come forward, the village board would have to, what I would recommend is simultaneously do a zoning amendment change to our ordinance to allow multifamily. What I've listed here are options as to how we could entitle that in the code. When we were going through our comprehensive plan update, one of the recommendations was to do an overlay district on the 159th Street corridor to handle projects such as this. Or any other kind of separate, unique projects that may fit better along that corridor than other places in the village. This, I think, is a much more intense effort, although I think it's probably what we need in our code. But I do think that for timeliness, this would probably not expedite a project that is looking to be constructed soon. So I think timeliness is the biggest issue with that first option. The other two options would be to entitle multifamily in either R6 or R6A. R6 is the existing multifamily residential district that existed in our code but was grandfathered at some point in time. I can't remember, I think it was maybe the late 2000s. R6A is our attached single-family housing zoning district. It doesn't even allow for single-family detached housing. It's just attached, like duplexes, townhouses, land uses like that. So we could rename that district and add that in there. And then I just wanted to add that if we are going to entitle this as a village, I do believe that it needs to just say multifamily, not slice and dice between whether or not it's apartment or condominium. So I think that's up for discussion as well. And I will hand over the floor to Boris. He's with Legacy Development Group, and I think he'll start us out with the presentation.
It's just me, Melissa.
This is George Arnold.
Yes.
Apologies.
George Arnold, I'm attorney appearing on behalf of Legacy Development, but Boris Predovich is here. He's the principal of Legacy. Our design team is also here. Steve Francis, our architect, Scott Schreiner, our engineer, and also John Shira, our landscape architect. We're very excited to bring this project to the village. We think it will, and we hope you'll agree, that it's going to set a very high standard of development for the future of the 159th Street corridor, which is a very important corridor, I think you would agree, for Homer Glen. The combination of the eco-friendly design, the sustainable features, the lifestyle amenities will make this a mixed-use development that will exemplify Homer Glen's motto of community and nature in harmony. With that being said, I would like to invite Steve to begin the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Steve Francis with Linden Group Architects. I've been involved in this project as well as the Lucas Farm project to the east of us since 2019. ARIA is a lifestyle community focused on an eco-conscious design, providing for a pedestrian and pet-friendly environment with a park-like setting. We're going to propose green features built into this development, such as green roofs, solar panels on the building roofs, water harvesting, on-site water treatment facility, and EV charging stations. The site is located on 15.5 acres on the north side of 159th Street, about a quarter mile east of Bell Road. The entrance road subdivides the site with views of the landscape detention area on each side of the entrance drive. 2 commercial buildings north of the ponds, each having a footprint of 16,000 square foot, providing a total of 80,000 square foot of space. The amenities of this building are parking below grade, first floor retail with full deck on the south side of each building overlooking the pond, providing outdoor dining, lounging, and recreation space. Second floor office professional space, and upper floor providing both open and covered rooftop experiences for dining, spa, or outdoor amenity spaces. Parking for the commercial buildings is situated to the north of the commercial buildings such that it screens the parking from 159th Street view. Driving north to a roundabout with a landscape fountain connects east and west roads for future access to development to the east, as well as an entrance and exit off to 159th Street. Traffic through the gated community is one-way traffic entering on the east with a ring road around the development and exiting on the west. There is ample outdoor parking available for residents and guests. Gated residential community is comprised of 4 luxury apartment buildings of 170 units total, bordering the site around a common courtyard with views of highly landscaped detention area and clubhouse areas. It's important to note that during meetings with staff, we've reduced the total unit count, started off at 208, then reduced it to 186 and settled at 170, where we are today. Residence buildings are comprised of underground parking with 3 floors of units and an upper floor penthouse units with large private decks, as well as common outdoor amenity space for dining, gathering, and relaxing. Residential units may vary from 1,260 square feet to 2,200. The gated community offers many amenities, including a 5,600 square foot clubhouse, large common entertainment area with kitchen, fireplace, with access to the pool deck, workout room with equipment, yoga room, conference room, and sales management offices. The large fenced sun deck contains outdoor pool and spa with space for lounging and sunbathing. Additional washrooms are located at the north end of the sun deck to provide facilities for bathers, as well as outdoor pool, storage equipment, and furniture. The water treatment plant is located below this building in the basement level. A small putting green is situated at the north end of the restroom utility building. South of the clubhouse is additional patio seating with a fire pit with scenic views overlooking the detention area. The development also hosts a total of 1.78 miles of walking paths encompassing landscaped parklet seating and gathering areas with views of detention and surrounding wooded prairie areas. I'm going to hand it over to Scott Schreiner. He's going to talk about some of the engineering.
Good evening. My name is Scott Schreiner. I am the president of Design Tech Engineering. I'm a former resident of Homer Glen. I spent 9 years in this community. In 2001, I was actually appointed to the zoning committee here in Homer Glen, and we were kind of tasked with rewriting the zoning ordinance to modify that from the Will County ordinance to Homer's ordinance. Unfortunately, didn't get to finish that project as we moved out of the village in 2002. However, since that time, Design Tech Engineering has worked on several projects within the village of Homer Glen. One of the largest being the Stonebridge Woods project, west of Parker Road. We've also worked with John Rogers on the Lucas Farm, which is the adjacent property to this one, and several others throughout the last 10, 15 years. So we started on this particular piece of property in 2006. Worked with the original landowner, and then after Boris got involved, worked with Boris on this property. Several years ago, we had a 7-acre piece of property that was approved as Waterfall Place. That particular project was put on hold until the completion of 159th Street. Since that time, we worked with IDOT on the entrances to the subdivision for the original original 8.5 acres, I should say. So the access to the site is already constructed. It was constructed as part of the 159th Street improvements. The main entrance is actually a 3/4 main entrance with a left in, a right in, and a right out. The secondary access point is going to be along the west property line, and that is already constructed as a right out only on 159th Street. In addition to that, we've created on do you have a site plan, Melissa, to put up? I think there's a site plan in there. It just may help. Is there one at the end, Steve? There you go. All right. So about 500 feet in from 159th Street, there's a roundabout. And what we've done there is we've extended what we're considering to be a frontage road for future extensions, mainly to the east. It's been in the village's comprehensive plan for a long time for properties along 159th Street to incorporate frontage roads that would then separate the commercial property from the residential property. That frontage road, as that heads east, that will eventually tie into the Lucas Farm, with the main corridor heading back out to 159th Street at a location that most likely will have a signalized intersection in the future with the development of the adjacent property. So currently, the site already has 2 access points of access in and out. None of it is through any type of existing developed areas. The future development to the east would be similar in nature, we believe, at some point in time. So traffic impact to the surrounding communities is going to be minimal. Everything's going to load in and out of 159th Street, which was obviously reconstructed for this type of traffic. As far as utilities go, sanitary sewer and water main are both located in 159th Street right away. Both have the capacity that's necessary to handle this property. We will loop the water main through the site and back out along the exit road on the west to complete the loop. It was mentioned earlier about some sustainable features on the property. We are planning on reclaiming water on this site. We're going to do that one of 2 ways. We've got plans to capture the runoff from the rooftops of the residential buildings. We're going to have a storage and treatment that will occur below the storage building that's adjacent to the clubhouse. In addition to that, we're going to supplement that water storage with an on-site well. Purpose for this is really 3 reasons. We're going to use that water to irrigate. We have much vegetation, many trees being planted. So we're going to use that water to irrigate the site. We will have, annually, we'll have to refill the pool. And then the other important feature is the ponds themselves. They're more water features in our mind. They act as detention basins, but they are water features. And we want to maintain a certain water level in those ponds, so during drought times or dry conditions, we'll be able to use that reclaimed water to help fill those ponds back so they're always at the same elevation. Stormwater management, another big issue always in every town. Again, we're not looking to just create detention basins here. We're looking to create some water features that are nice amenities to the site. As you guys scroll through the renderings, I think you'll see how the ponds are proposed to look, but just to clear that up a little bit, we're going to have outcropping stone that rings around the detention basins. That stone's going to be about 1 foot above the normal water level and about 2 feet below. The ponds are going to be constructed with the filter fabric bottom, and then they're going to be 6 to 12-inch cobbles placed throughout the bottom of the pond. So we're looking to make the basins more of a reflective type of a pond rather than your typical detention pond. And that's what we tried to represent in our renderings. So the 2 ponds along 159th will be constructed that way. And the center pond that's adjacent to the clubhouse will also be constructed in that manner. The 4th pond is at the northwest corner of the site, upper left on the screen now. That pond there actually discharges out to an existing wetland on the Lucas Farm property. So that particular area over there, we're creating a wetland bottom pond, and we're going to naturalize the banks of that pond with that entire area being prairie mix on site to make it more natural and flow with the existing conditions on the site. So with that, the center pond will drain down to the ponds along 159th Street. They will then discharge into the right-of-way of 159th. There's a ditch line that was created there that takes that water easterly, and then it hits a culvert and drains south under 159th Street, and that is a tributary to Spring Creek, and it eventually gets into Spring Creek. The detention basin to the north will drain northeasterly into the existing wetlands on the Lucas Farm property. When that particular wetland fills up, it tends to overtop and flow to the east and ultimately makes it to the same culvert under 159th Street. So again, same as traffic, all of the runoff from the site is being collected, it's being stored, it's being discharged, and none of it will impact any of the existing surrounding properties in the neighborhood. As a matter of fact, with the significant reduction in runoff rate, the flows that do make it to Spring Creek, you'll see negligible effect, but you will see a decrease in actual flow rates at Spring Creek where there is some flooding concerns. The site itself, from the highest point on the site to 159th Street, there's 45 feet of fall. It may not look like that when you drive by, but there's 45 feet of fall. From that traffic circle to 159th Street, there's going to be approximately 30 feet of fall. So when you have a site like that with significant grade changes, and you have to manage certain aspects, not just mostly design code aspects, but we have to maintain maximum roadway slopes. We have to maintain maximum slopes for parking lots to make ingress and egress comfortable for people. We're doing our best to make all 1.78 miles of walking trail handicap accessible, and we have handicap accessible parking spaces. So with all these restrictions in mind, the site will need to be mass graded. When you mass grade a site like this, it's nearly impossible to save trees, except possibly some trees around the perimeter. So the newly acquired 7 acres does have trees that will have to be removed for the mass grading of this site for the site to be workable. However, with that, as you go through the slide, you'll see it, we've been instructed as the design team by the owners of this project to create a park-like setting and replace as many trees as possible. There are considerations when replacing trees. You can't just plant hundreds and hundreds of trees. They have to have enough space to grow. They have to be compatible with the land uses around them. But we've committed to creating a park-like setting on the property. You'll see in the renderings the extent of trees that we do have planted. We're creating naturalized prairies and wetland areas in the northeast corner. And we will continue to work with staff as we have so far to make sure that we are meeting all the requirements of the ordinance in respect to that aspect of the project. So for now, I'll give it back to George.
Thank you. Scott had referenced the different slides or renderings. I think the board all has those, right, Melissa? Okay, good. Sure, if you'd like. But we would, next, we would like to answer any questions that anybody on the board has, and we're really anxious to have your feedback as to what your thoughts are on this project.
I have a question because two of your speakers, and Scott just said it again, referred to them as apartment buildings, and Scott said apartments again as well. What is your intention with this property?
So the intention, they have not yet decided what type of dwelling units they will be. I think from impact on the village, it won't really matter because the quality and the price and the design is going to basically, you know, demand the same demographic regardless of what that ends up being, but they haven't decided yet.
So if this board agreed to change your zoning to multifamily, what's the probability or likelihood that these would be apartments?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're still in the process of figuring that out.
Okay.
And some of that is, you know, market demand. I'm sure, as you know, the market's demand has changed significantly in the last several years in terms of what apartment buildings versus condos look like and so forth. But like I said, I think the thing to consider here is the quality of product that is being built is going to only serve, you know, a type of demographic at a certain you know, certain income level, frankly, and it's not going to be different regardless of what type of dwelling unit it is.
And the residential buildings are still at 4 levels, correct?
Yes.
Because
yeah, correct.
Several trustees had stated that that was too high.
What they? You want to speak to that? Yeah.
Melissa, would you be able to help us out a little bit as far as our comprehensive plan and the density, the struggles that we may have with this and the changes that would have to be made? Do you have any input that you could share with us that if we look at our comprehensive plan and how this fits in or doesn't, and the struggles we may have with making this happen?
The comprehensive plan actually does make reference in a number, the current one from 2005 that's been adopted, it does make reference to multifamily development on a case-by-case basis in, you know, certain areas that the board can consider projects like that. So I do think that there is some lenience, some support by our original comprehensive plan for this type of development. I just think that I think as staff, we don't have, well, first of all, we don't have any way to entitle this right now. So even though the comprehensive plan may make reference to that, there's no zoning district to ask for a map amendment into to allow this type of land use. And so I think that it's just important to understand for the village, I know there's been concern about higher density. And so I just think that it's important for us to make sure we understand what kind of quality development we would like to see here in the village if we're going to allow this type of development at this type of density to come in. Because I think that when we write if the ordinance was to be written, that's what's really key, is to understand what happens is if you entitle a project like this and we open the zoning ordinance up, then we want to make sure that anything else that follows has the same type of quality. So I think that's what's key, is writing into the ordinance what we want, what the village would be comfortable with long term.
And right now, occupancy, I mean, it's a big project, right? Mm-hmm. And occupancy, I'm not sure about how long you figure it would take to fill the occupancy to its capacity. But in the instance where capacity didn't get filled to its completion, what options do they have to, besides selling the units, what options, I don't know what you have done in the past and what you may think that you would be able to do here, but I would like to know what would take place if occupancy was at a 50% level and we're 5 years down the road or 4 years down the road. What would this builder have the option legally and by our comprehensive plan to do?
Well, right now they haven't decided. They haven't decided whether it's going to be condos or apartments.
Right. I don't care if it's condos or let's assume condos. Even if it was apartments. That's what they started with in the meeting the original meeting that we had. It was listed as condos. Now I'm hearing the word apartments. Let's just stick with condos for the moment. If the occupancy rate is at 50% and we're 4 years down the road, what may they do per our village code and our comprehensive plan?
If this was to be entitled and we had changed our ordinance and it said multifamily, they would be able to rent, I would assume, yeah.
And even if it was just even if it was just condos, I would imagine somebody could buy 5 condos and then rent them out.
They could.
Correct?
Yeah, there's nothing to stop them from doing that. No
right, thank
different
you.
than renting a
That's what we
single
wanted.
house out, right?
George, what do you think? No, you're the mayor. I want to hear your opinion. This is a pretty big project.
You're never going to have 50% occupancy. You can the financing or. Okay.
Mayor, can you please talk into your microphone? Thank you.
I'm definitely in favor of this. It is very good for the village. It'll bring money into the village. It'll bring commercial into the village. So, yeah, I would say it would be fine. Everything that Orland Park built filled up real quick.
Like 9750, this is what this reminds me of in Orland Park.
The difference between this and Orland and 9750 is that's a government-owned project. So they have to offer market rate rentals.
Well, I'm
They
looking
have
at
to.
design-wise.
Understand.
You know, it's rented, they rent, you know, demographic. I mean, it's all blended in. Orland Park's right next to us.
Much higher density, though. And 9750 is almost 100 units an acre.
Okay.
Yeah, much smaller units and much higher density.
Well, they have different size units.
Absolutely, yeah. To answer some of your questions about, you know, you were asking about what happens if, you know, the building number 1 doesn't fill up. Well, we don't go to building number 2 until we have building 1, you know, 70 or 80% occupied, and then we start breaking ground on building 2 and just continue on through the development. That's the typical course of action. And to back up with your question about the height of the building. So right now our buildings are 3 stories of units completely built out. The 4th story is not 100% coverage because we have open roof deck type areas out there, plus we have large patios for the penthouse type units. So it's only, you know, 60% probably of that floor that's actually built out. The rest of it is open air for the, you know, the owners of that 4th floor unit and or the community areas that are over the center core.
So the 4th floor is your penthouses, correct?
Correct, yes.
And that occupies, penthouses occupy 60% of the top floor?
Yeah, approximately. Yeah. Yeah, so we're also, you know, compared to what was proposed at Lucas Farm, we're about almost 18% lower in the building height than that project was because we have flat roofs. So that was a much taller building, somewhere around 64 feet. We're about 52. And comparably, you know, compared to like projects like Good and Grove, that building is much taller than this building. That's actually really a 5-story building because that building's got parking on grade, and then it's got 4 stories of condominiums there, plus the pitch roof. So that's about a 70-foot tall building. And Loyola, of course, too. So that building's taller than these two.
Mayor, may I ask a question? In your bylaws, if you were to do it a condo, could you do bylaws where they were unable to rent?
Yeah, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring a project that will make a whole difference for all of us. If we're going to focus on apartments or condos, that's tough for me. Because if I'm going to invest $100 million in a sleepy community and set the standard, if we're going to focus on apartments or condos, I don't know that I could support that. Because it doesn't matter. The demographic of the person that could live there, whether they pay the rent or pay the mortgage, is the same. There truly is. And we can call them apartments, but there's nothing that prevents us legally from turning them later. So I'm just trying to be honest with you. I'm not asking to make them apartments, but I don't want to be handcuffed with a $100 million investment. You're going to say, hey, they're empty, but you can't rent them. It doesn't support logic. So I'm asking for that consideration. I don't know that I can get that buy-in, but I don't know that I can commit to more than that.
Thank you, sir. I know in the beginning, 9750 and complexes like that in Orland, they all start out with the mentality of the premier demographic. But as we see, 9750 does not, it didn't turn out the way they planned. Let's just put it that way. And as you said, it's government owned now. So.
I feel we can be very fiscally responsible. I believe we have a bank that could support this. and they give us a pathway. You want to rent them? We'll give you the money right away because we know they'll rent. You want to condo them out? Sell 70% of them with a 10% down. Until then, you can't get any money, so it'll never be empty, number one. And we're going to test the market, right? There might be a lot of people that are looking to downsize, and that would be their home. So if that's what the trend is, we would love that. But if you have no traction and have an empty lot and you don't have any development on 159, I'm not sure if that's really the best for the community. That's for the community and the residents to decide, but that's what I would caution. We lost one project next door, and I think we incorporated every single concept that we've been asked over the last 6 months. I think hopefully everyone here that has met with me and our support team, we addressed every single request, every single one. So I'm asking us, what would it take to get these permits expedited? We have the funding, we want to move forward. And if we can't, we'd really like to get feedback pretty much today, because then we'll just walk away and we respect that.
I would like to hear from, I mean, of course, the residents that are here, residents that are out there, people are going to see this workshop today. I want to talk to our people. I want to hear what everybody has to say. This is a huge deal, and I appreciate $100 million. It's a big deal to you too. But we are representing the residents, and we have to make sure this fits. And I remember our meeting, you even said, if the residents don't want it, even if you guys voted in, I don't want nothing to do with it.
And I will walk.
So we're just waiting for feedback at this point.
Truthfully, the feedback is critical, because if the residents don't see a benefit to convenience, restaurants, a little post office, a coffee shop, if you don't believe that's valuable, I get it. I think it's wrong, but I would respect that. If we want to just keep the corridor and have it create no revenue.
Just to correct, sir, not to interrupt, we are planning a town center just without the residential that will pretty much will provide everything you just mentioned, the restaurants, the
Well, then you might not
post
need me.
office.
I get that. I hear
So
you.
we're looking at everything.
That's cool.
We understand.
Fair enough.
Does anyone have any other questions? You want to give them a timeline of what you think on it, or tell them yes, tell them no?
I think we definitely need to, I think we need to bring this to the attention of the residents and get their feedback first before we do anything else.
Absolutely.
Fair enough.
I agree.
Thank you, Boris.
And I understand what you're saying, but do you mean, what's the process for bringing this to the attention of the residents? Are you talking about a public hearing?
Yeah, a public hearing, absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
Or maybe a stakeholders meeting or a workshop. Maybe we
invite the residents.
Call it a neighborhood meeting, get the residents, we can notice.
Yeah.
We can also send things out via the web, put stuff out, just different sources. That way we're hitting them all over, and a resident can never say, I never heard about this, because they're getting hit from all sides with it.
As you guys know, there's a lot of residents that have spoken about their opinions about apartments. So all the more reason that we should be reaching out and seeing what their opinions are on this, okay?
Yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't, I just want to understand what should we coordinate with Melissa? Is that what we should do?
With the village manager as well, please.
Manager?
Yeah, I think it's best if staff gets involved and we can work some workshop with neighbors and stuff.
This is one step, or the second step, in the correct direction of transparency with the residents of Homer Glen. So we appreciate you being patient with that and working with us.
Sure.
Thank you for coming here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I think the residents would appreciate that too.
I think so, yeah. I wouldn't want to do anything without their approval first.
Thank you.
Okay, so is there any other old business?
Old business. I would like to say, in the Homer Village Square over there at 143rd and Bell Road, When we started, there were quite a few empty storefronts over there. And I'd like to say thank you to this board with being business friendly, with our new staff and being business friendly and working with the businesses, and whatever we could do to help out. That is 100% occupied now. So it's very rare that you can go to a strip mall these days and see 100% occupancy. So thank you to everybody in working so hard on this board to make that happen. That was one thing we talked about early on, and it looks like we've accomplished that goal. So no empty storefront. We got a few more to work on, but as far as that corner, as big as it is where the Jewel's at, we're 100% occupied. And I'd like to thank, I didn't get the chance to go over there, but there's been a lot of great news about Poke Plus, which Poke, I learned when we went to Hawaii what that dish is. And if you haven't tried it, there's a lot of people that like it right now. And I'm sorry I missed that ribbon cutting portion when they had that last month. But that was the last business to go in there to make that strip mall 100% occupied.
Any other?
And just so you know, next year, we are not going to be having ribbon cuttings on our board days. So it'll be a lot easier for us to be able to attend.
Yes. That'd be it for me under old business.
Okay, is there any new business?
New business. Anybody, there's a couple people that came up to the podium tonight, and one gentleman in particular. All I can tell you is for us here in this board and how hard we worked and rolled up our sleeves and did things a different way to make things work without taxing the people of Homer Glen on their houses, I'd like you to take and look up our voting record. When you look up our voting record, that doesn't lie. It's online. It's on the village website. So anything anybody says at that podium and is working with somebody else behind the scenes and trying to make us look bad and we're all this and we're all that, here, our voting record speaks for everything. And the way to find that is on the village website. If you've got a question about anything and you can't find it there, call one of us. We'd be glad to sit down with you and discuss whatever it is. So
Our door is always open.
Yes. That is all I have to say.
Yes, we have desks now.
And I was hoping I wasn't going to have to say anything like that, but being that it was said at the podium about all this whole laundry list of somebody's things that they have on their mind, I think it's important to know people's voting records, especially when you're voting for them, and ours are very transparent on our website. So take the time, look at what we voted to help, how we've helped businesses, how we've done a lot of things in actually reducing taxes, how we've taken and worked with the township and the village, or with the township and got a lot of things accomplished. Even naming the road district is one of those things. That was not settled until we got here, and we put a special meeting together in September. And then that was finally, after, I don't know, a year and a half or so of going back and forth, that still was not settled, and we were handed that challenge, and we took care of that. So under old business, I just want everybody to know, look up our voting record. That's where the truth is.
And our accomplishments.
I got one more thing, since you mentioned it earlier. Keep in mind, folks, when you're looking at that tax bill, some of you may see a small decrease in your tax bill. Some of you may see a tiny increase. Keep in mind what offsets the cuts that we've done, the cuts that the township has done. You have other taxing bodies that, if we lower this much, every much that they raise makes our this much, that much, that much, that much. Let's look at the library board. Let's look at their tax levies. Let's look at the fire board. Let's look at their school, which is 70%.
70%.
Especially the school board. So we want to make a difference. It's not just about this room. It's about the other boardrooms that we have to go to and voice our opinion. Tell them how we feel about them raising our taxes. And folks, it's not just us. It's you guys. So just want to say that as well. Thank you.
Okay, we're going into executive session then. We'll have a 5-minute break.
Thank you for that.
And then we can...
The board will go into executive session to discuss employee compensation, and we'll also give you just a very brief update on collective bargaining. Are we going to have a motion on that? You should have a motion to do that, yes.
So I motion to go into executive session for the collective bargaining and...
To discuss employee compensation and collective bargaining.
Should that be after the 5 minutes?
No, just
He
do
needs
it.
a motion now, so I need a motion.
Roll call.
Aye.